Ryan Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win seal. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Hello, Patriots. The Yemen Houthi rebels are causing a massive problem in the Red Sea. They are attacking U.S. ships and basically anyone who supports Israel. Now, this poses a major problem because the Houthi rebels are backed by Iran. Now, for decades, a Cold War has been brewing between the United States, its allies, and Iran. And it is eventually going to come to head. This is something that's not going to just go away. It's not possible that this situation goes away. Back in 2000, in the early 2000s, when the United States was going to invade Iraq, there were serious talks about invading Iran instead. Donald Trump famously, I guess he was caught on tape talking about a decision to invade Iran at some point. This is coming. A war with Iran is absolutely, it's inevitable. And nobody is going to be able to stop it, unfortunately. At least I don't think so, not for a long time. You may be able to put it off, but this Palestinian Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th really shoved it closer because it demonstrated that how Iran supports these terrorist groups and supports the destruction of innocent life, and that they're not going to stop, that if we send them billions of dollars that Joe Biden did, they're going to use it to fund terrorist attacks. This is a country that is an ideology of terrorism. That's what Iran is. Iran is not some noble nation that has any sort of ethics whatsoever. They want you dead. And they use proxies to do it. They fund these organizations like the Houthi rebels or Hezbollah or Hamas. They fund them, they give them money, and they help them plan attacks on Israel and its allies. So it's a very serious situation, and it's going to come to a head. And with the allies of Israel and the allies of Iran, we're talking potential for World War III here between Russia and China. This could be a massive situation, and we have a president who doesn't even understand how to speak. He doesn't even know where he is half of the time. So who's making these decisions and who's running the country? But let's take a look at a report of what's been happening in the Red Sea.
Happening right now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is meeting with the president of the Palestinian Authority, one day after meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other leaders in the Jewish state.
It comes as U.S. and U.K. forces shoot down the largest Houthi attack on international shipping in the Red Sea that we've seen so far. Trey Yingst, live in Israel at the very latest. Trey.
Todd Carley, good morning. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken.
I want to just look at this map here for a second. Let's go back to this map if I can find it. That is, they launched the largest strike. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20, around 25 maybe ships, 26 ships. It's actually written there on the screen. So here I am counting them. But 26 ships. Now you could see the Red Sea is strategically a major place for imports, with Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Egypt, Yemen and the Horn of Africa.
At the very latest, Trey.
Todd Carley, good morning. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken still in the region today, meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. It does come just a day after he met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the war cabinet, and also the families of those being held hostage currently inside Gaza. Blinken reportedly told Netanyahu to work harder to protect Gazan civilians and also discuss broader work to free the more than 100 hostages still being held. The secretary's visit does come as a new attack was launched overnight by Iran-backed Houthi rebels in the Red Sea. A U.S. official telling Fox News that the combined drone and missile attack was the largest to date to target the shipping lane. 18 drones were shot down during that incident by U.S. forces in what is the 26th Houthi attack since mid-November. We're also following confirmation this week by the U.S. Treasury that Iran has accessed some of its $10 billion unfrozen by waivers permitted by the Biden administration. Blinken did address this just last week.
Which is absolute $10 billion to a terrorist state. $10 billion to a terrorist state. Of your taxpayer money. This is your money that you pay taxes for. That the federal government robs from your paycheck every time you get paid. Where the IRS is going after people and arresting them and saying they're avoiding paying taxes so you can give them to these foreign governments. These terrorist governments, which is absolutely just, it's ludicrous.
None of that money goes to the Iranian regime, and none of it goes to the mullahs. It is if it has been allocated against, it would go to approved vendors that would purchase food, water, medicine, agricultural products.
Nonsense.
You heard there from the National Security Council's John Kirby discussing what Iran will do with that money. The concern here, though, Todd and Carly, is that easing any sort of economic pressure on the Islamic Republic will allow them to funnel more funding and money to their proxies across the region. Todd, Carly?
That's the issue, because money is fungible, and you can take from one bucket to put it in another. Trey, thank you.
And I mean, that's been the argument since day one. But the Biden administration does not care. The Biden administration is going to do whatever the Biden administration wants to do, whatever's in their interest and not in the best interest of the United States of America. So in retaliation to all of these attacks by these Houthi rebels, the United States and the UK teamed up and they just bombed the hell out of them, which is what they should do. 100% every time. Here is a report on that.
We have some significant breaking news just into us, as we have learned now that the U.S. and British military have launched strikes against targets in Yemen, areas of Yemen controlled by the Houthis. This is according to 2 U.S. officials. This, of course, comes in the wake of those Houthi rebel strikes on ships in the Red Sea, those strikes on commercial ships that we've been talking about now for weeks. It is, of course, the potential for a big escalation of the growing conflict in the Middle East. We've got team coverage tonight. I want to start with Gabe Gutierrez, who is live for us at the White House. Gabe, what do we know, and where does this go?
Oh, well, hi there, Hallie. As you mentioned, 2 sources confirmed to us that the U.S. and British forces have started strikes against Houthi targets inside Yemen. Now, this is an escalation, Hallie. The U.S. had been trying to prevent or had retaliatory strikes against Houthi forces before, but these are the first land-based retaliatory strikes that the U.S. has undergone. Now,
the U.S. has been in this area since like October 8th, after the terrorist attack on Israel, to prevent a regional war, but it's going to end very badly. For everybody involved. This is going to, the way that it looks now and the steps that are being taken, and having such a weak regime that's allowing this stuff to happen. And it's like, yeah, we responded by bombing them. But, you know, these Houthi rebels are getting their orders from Iran. So if Iran tells them to continue to attack, they're going to continue to attack. So we're not going after the source of the problem, which is Iran, which everybody knows is Iran, which the CIA, NSA, Mossad. Everybody knows Iran is behind 100% all of this. And they have the power to tell the Houthis to stop, but they're not going to. They're not going to. Back when Thomas Jefferson was president and we had the Tripoli pirates taking American ships as slaves, right? They were taking people, kidnapping them, making them slaves. Thomas Jefferson sent a ambassador over and said, listen, why are you doing this to us? We have never done anything to offend you. We'll help you. What do you need? Why are you doing this to us? And they said, well, the Quran allows us to do it, and we're going to continue to do it. And that's where the Marines went and just mopped the floor with them. And that's where the shores of Tripoli comes from in the Marine Corps hymn. Just a little history there. But this is a religious ideology that is going to continue to push, because the battle for Israel has been going on since the beginning of time.
Targeted multiple locations inside Yemen with fighter jets and Tomahawks fired from Navy ships. Now, Hallie, this comes after the White House has repeatedly warned the Houthis over the last several weeks to essentially knock it off. Now, none of these warnings had apparently worked. Today, the Iranian Navy seized an oil tanker off the coast of Oman, raising the stakes here. Of course, the Houthis being backed by Iran, according to the National Security Council here. And the U.S. had been considering targeting these land-based positions for some time now. The U.S. and the U.K. had already responded by shooting down missiles and drones fired by the Houthis. The U.S. Navy recently sank Houthi boats that had fired on commercial ships. Now, today, Secretary of State Blinken was in Cairo, and he said, I don't think the conflict is escalating, but there are danger points, according.
How can you say there, Blinken, that the conflict's not escalating? You're now bombing Yemen. The United States is now bombing Yemen after another paramilitary organization that is hell-bent on destroying the United States and Israel. There's no coincidence here that this is set up strategically. Yemen is positioned right down at the Gulf of Aden by the Red Sea. It controls all of the flow of commerce from the Red Sea out into the ocean. And at the very end, Iran has placed Houthi rebels there. It's strategic. It's all planned. And the fact that now they're not listening to you and you have to go in and bomb them, what do you mean it's not escalating? I swear they just make things up. This administration, it's absolutely outrageous. Yes, it's escalating. You have Israel just bombed Lebanon. The United States and the UK are bombing Yemen. The war with Israel and Hamas has now spread to 2 other countries. How can you say it's not escalating?
To the Secretary of State. But again, the breaking news there, Hallie, that 2 U.S. officials confirmed to NBC News that the U.S. and British military have launched strikes against the Houthi militant group inside Yemen for the first time, Hallie.
Raf Sanchez, I want to go to you now, live for us in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And Raf, we have talked now for weeks about the potential for a broader regional escalation, particularly after these attacks by Houthis in the Red Sea. We know there have been more than 24 on commercial ships, commercial tankers. This has been an issue that the U.S. and allies around the world have been trying to get a handle on.
This has been an issue for 2 months, Hallie, and the Houthis, week after week, attack after attack, have been defying the U.S., defying America's allies, and continuing these strikes on commercial ships heading through the Red Sea, through that narrow strait called the Bab el-Mandeb. Around 20% of global trade disrupted by these Houthi attacks, according to the U.S. government. You have ships, rather than going through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, and into the Mediterranean, are now taking this very long route around the southern coast of Africa. The Houthi attacks have been driving up the cost of shipping, costs which have been passed on to consumers all over the world. And it has become a situation that has become untenable from the perspective of the White House, from the perspective of the British government. You've heard Secretary Blinken, as he's been here in the region over the last week, saying again and again, there will be consequences if these Houthi attacks continue. And they have continued. Just yesterday, according to the U.S. and British militaries, the Houthis launching their largest, most complex attack yet. 18 drones, 3 missiles fired at ships in the Red Sea, despite those warnings from the U.S., from the U.K. These strikes have been very highly telegraphed, Hallie. The Houthis have known they were coming. They have put out warnings of their own, saying that they will respond to any American attacks, and they have options in terms of targets. Commercial ships in the Red Sea, American bases in the region, but also Saudi Arabia, oil facilities there, which they've targeted many, many times in the past. So we're seeing these American and British strikes coming now. The question is, how will the Houthis respond?
Thanks for watching.
And they're going to respond because they're just the only thing they respond to is absolute total destruction. You have to crush. These people have such a firm ideological view that they're willing to die for it. So sometimes you have to let them know that you're not playing around. And it's going to continue to escalate as long as Israel continues to defend itself and clear out Hamas. They're going to win. Israel is more than capable of taking out like 5 countries at once. The United States is going to back them 100%, no matter how many times people take to the streets or post on Twitter. Like, it's not going to stop. They're going to continue. You're wasting your time, because the interest of the United States in Israel is so high that we have no choice. Israel is a golden ally. We get piles of information about terrorists, and it's crucial to have Israel as an ally. Now, it's important to know that the Houthi rebels are not, they're in Yemen, but they're rebels. They're like, they put on their uniforms and they pretend to be troops, but they're really not. They're not sanctioned by any state. But the governments don't do anything about them. So let's watch this clown from the Houthi rebels talk here. First of all, look at this nerd. Look at him. He's got his freaking beret on. He's got his make pretend uniform on, and he's got like medals from what? I don't know. The Navy, Rocket Forces, and the Air Force.
والقوة الصاروخية وسلاح الجو المسير في القوات المسلحة
of the Yemeni Houthi armed forces.
اليمنية عملية عسكرية مشتركة.
Carried out a joint military operation.
بعدد كبير من الصواريخ البالستية.
Using a significant number of ballistic missiles and naval assets.
والبحرية والطائرات المسيرة.
And drones.
استهدفت سفينة أمريكية.
Targeting an American ship that was providing support to the Zionist entity. So here they are. They're coming out and they're saying, yeah, it was us. We did it. We attacked American ship because you're helping Israel, which is the premise of this religious war. This operation is a preliminary response to the treacherous attack on our naval forces by the American enemy. The Yemeni Houthi armed forces emphasize their full commitment to the continuity of maritime traffic in the Arabian Sea and the Red Sea to all destinations except the ports of occupied Palestine. Palestine's not occupied. They're just morons.
The applicant has now sought to invoke this term.
And they're weak. I mean, that guy is completely weak. He looks, He's playing dress up like a freaking 12-year-old girl, and he's got his pretend little uniform on. And fuck out of here, nerd. Look at him. You mean to tell me if you got this guy alone in a room, he would be a tough guy? No, absolutely not. Zero hand-eye coordination. Guarantee it. He just stands up at a microphone and pretends to be the tough. It's dumb. Like you're an idiot. Nobody likes you. Your mom doesn't like you, which is why you're so worried and so mad at the world. Here's another news clip of the strikes here. Let's listen to this.
There's been a dramatic and dangerous escalation in the war in the Middle East, with British and American warplanes bombing Houthi rebels in Yemen, one of the region's most active supporters of Hamas.
These strikes were surgical and severe, hitting key military targets aimed at crippling the rebels' ability to disrupt international shipping off its coast. And Australian personnel played a role in the operation. Our Europe Bureau Chief Hugh Whitfield begins our coverage.
America and Britain's patience finally ran out in the dead of the night. But not
finally ran out. I mean, the second the Houthis made an announcement months ago that they're going to support Hamas and that they're going to start bombing ships, you should have bombed the hell out of them then, just for verbally saying it. And sent a message like, no, you're not, because you're dead. You're all fucking dead. So now you can't. Does anybody else want to play this game? That's how it should have went down. But they waited until American ships were attacked and failed to protect those American ships. And all the other ships of innocent, these are innocent people, by the way, captains of ships just working for a living, crew members of ships just driving around doing their damn job are innocent people.
Without warning, these fighter jets from the Royal Air Force were seen taking off from Cyprus and were joined by American F-A-18s from the aircraft carrier US Eisenhower, somewhere in the Red Sea. But most of the damage was done by powerful Tomahawk missiles fired from US submarines, hitting 60 targets in multiple cities, including the capital and key ports in the country's west.
You don't mess with the Navy. I'll tell you that right now. You do not mess with the United States Navy. Their capabilities are way beyond anything you could possibly fathom. Things that you know about are just scratching the surface of the technology and the abilities that you don't know about. Trust me when I tell you that.
The mouth of the Red Sea, mostly air defense radar, weapons, and missile launches.
That the U.S. is hitting multiple targets in Yemen controlled by the Houthis.
Delivering a crushing message to stop meddling in the Israel-Hamas war.
This war could be escalating big time.
US President Joe Biden quickly confirmed Australia's involvement. Today, at my direction, US military forces, together with the United Kingdom and with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada and the Netherlands, successfully conducted strikes against a number of targets in Yemen.
The way that Biden is in the polls right now, the only way that he's going to get reelected is if there's a war, because typically, no matter how bad of a president there is, when there is a war, they get elected to a second term because the American people don't want to change anything up in the middle of a war. So they reelect the guy who either initiated the war or is in charge of the war. That's why FDR ran for like more than 2 terms. I mean, he was a nightmare. And that's why when he died, he wasn't even cold. And then they passed the amendment that says, 2 terms maximum, because you're going to get a dictator after that. But that's a strong incentive for Joe Biden to escalate this war. It's sad. But I'm not saying that that's what he's doing or why he's doing it. It's not what I'm saying at all. I don't know what's in his mind. I'm just saying that there is incentive there, because any political analyst knows and understands that a war, you are dramatically more likely to be reelected when there's a war, which is why presumably that almost every president in United States history has started a war.
Australia's support of these actions came in the form of personnel in the operational headquarters.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak held all-night meetings with key cabinet figures at Downing Street before declaring the Royal Air Force has carried out targeted strikes against military facilities used by Houthi rebels in Yemen. The United Kingdom will always stand up for freedom of navigation and the free flow of trade. And this is what they're trying to stop. Heavily armed and well-organised Houthi rebels repeatedly storming ships in the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest trade routes.
It's being cut off by terrorists and thugs, and we therefore must act.
The Houthis' supreme leader has now vowed to bring America to its knees.
How are you going to do that, Princess?
We are more determined to continue to target ships linked to Israel, and we will not back down from that.
All in support of Hamas. The danger for Washington, London, and Israel itself is drawing the Houthis' biggest ally, Iran, into a wider war. Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Well, and we know that. And that's where this is going to end. Unfortunately, it appears that there's not going to be a way to stop this this march towards war, because if or when, I should say, when Israel gets rid of Hamas, they have a couple of options. Option one, they need to instill a government in the Gaza Strip, one that they control to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Number two, they just kick them all out and say, you're not welcome here anymore. This land is now ours again. After we gave it to you, you lost your opportunity. The second option is going to start a freaking world war. So it's highly unlikely they will go down that way, right? But if they can preserve that area for Palestinians and instill their own government, or just be their government and actually occupy them this time. Before they weren't occupied. Now you could just occupy them because they're going to say you're occupying them whether you are or you're not. It doesn't matter. So what's the point of trying not to occupy them? You tried that, and then they came and put your babies in ovens. So, I mean, that didn't work. But it just seems that this is the path that we are headed down, unfortunately.
The U.S. and the U.K. striking Iranian-backed Houthi militants in Yemen. 100 precision missiles striking 60 targets at 16 different locations. This, of course, in retaliation for 130 attacks on U.S. troops in the Red Sea since October 17th. President Biden, who has not been seen in public in 3 days, issued a statement last night saying these strikes are in direct response to unprecedented Houthi attacks against international maritime vessels in the Red Sea and have endangered U.S. personnel, civilian mariners, jeopardizing trade and threatening freedom of navigation.
First of all, Joe Biden didn't write that statement. Second of all, Joe Biden didn't make that decision. Somebody made that decision, then wrote a statement for him. That's how this is working.
U.S. intelligence warning Hezbollah could attack America as tensions from its assault on Israel spill over.
And that's true, too, because, we just bombed the hell out of Lebanon because that's where Hezbollah is. And they're on the northern front of Israel. And they are not the northern front, I think the southern front. But they're attacking Israel. So this is where, and Hezbollah is controlled by Iran too. So the Houthi rebels, who are controlling the flow of commerce in the Red Sea, Hezbollah, who's on the other side of Israel, on the complete opposite side of Gaza, is making them almost, not yet, but they're going to face a two-front war. And they're antagonizing the United States and its allies to bomb them like we did in the Houthi rebels, which is going to fire Iran up, which is eventually, again, I'm going to say it, going to result in this conflict. I do not see this not happening. I mean, there's a chance it might not, but it appears that as it sits right now, that's where it's going. The good news is Donald Trump is way high in the polls, and it appears that he's going to be our next president of the United States as of today. A lot can change in a year. But Donald Trump is famously anti-war. He's the first president in in decades, not to have a war with anybody at all. So maybe when he gets elected, he can negotiate a peace. He was very strong and behind the Abraham Accords and was on the way to major peace dealings in the Middle East. This is why Donald Trump had great policies. He's just a little trigger happy on his Twitter and dealing with the press. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And do not forget to follow this channel for more shows just like this. And we will see you next time.
Into the Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.